Welcome to Good morning. Welcome to First Universalist Church of Rochester, where we are called to nurture the spirit and serve the community. I'm Reverend Margaret Weis. My pronouns are she, her, and I have the pleasure of serving you for just a few more weeks as your sabbatical minister. Leading worship with me today are Ezekiel McGee, they, them, as our virtual worship associate, Theo Munson, she, her, Ed Deller, and Charlie Kortzall, both he, him, who are stepping in last minute for our music while our music director, Dr. Brock Tesfold, is nursing a back injury. So deep thanks to those who have stepped in, and in case you're doing the math, yes, it takes at least 3 people to make one Brock. Today, Reverend Michelle Yates, she, her, will be sharing our story. Jack Cunningham, he, him, will be providing tech support. And Karen Labraco, she, her, is our grusher for our online ministry team. If you're here for the first time this morning, we especially welcome you. Thank you for making it here to our worshiping community. We have a visitors form that can be found in the chat for our folks online and can be accessed by scanning a QR code in your pews or on the back of your order of service. So please fill out this form if you'd like us to welcome you beyond this worship service. And a note on the orders of service, nothing in there is true when it comes to music, because that's just life. So what is going to be on the screen will be an accurate portrayal of what's happening, but if you feel confused, it's not you, it's the order of service. I mean, it may also be you, but it's also the order of service. So before we take a moment to greet our neighbor, let us take a moment to turn towards the camera and greet our online worshiping community. Please offer a wave, and if you're online, please pop into the chat to offer a greeting. And please wait to share your joys and sorrows until later in the service so that we can see them here in the sanctuary. So if you are here in person at First Universalist, let's turn to our neighbor and give an offer a welcome. Let's continue this joyful banter, but with joining our voices in song with our opening hymn, number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth.
I spent the first 27 years of my life rarely leaving my home state of Michigan. When you live in the same place, seeing the same sights for most of your life, it can be easy to take your environment for granted. As a younger person at the time, I especially longed to see something new. 10 years later, I've had the opportunity to travel all over our country and have a much different perspective. I've been in awe of landscapes that were very unfamiliar to me, mountains, deserts, and vast oceans. And yet I found that these foreign to me sights have made me more appreciative of my home rather than less. I can see and understand the beauty in the fields and forest I grew up around more completely than I ever did when I was younger. I've learned over the years just how fulfilling it is to find beauty in your surroundings, wherever they might be. Come, let us worship together. As Dolores DeLambo lights our chalice at First Universalist Church, and you light a chalice in your own homes, will you join me in saying our chalice words in unison? May we be a people of welcome, here to grow in heart and mind and spirit, and may we reach out to serve our community. Please rise in body or in spirit and join me in our affirmation of faith, followed by our doxology. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the source and meaning of life. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all. This week is our food in gathering. Any food items you've brought can be dropped off in the baskets at the front of the sanctuary. Your donations help to support our beloved community. You are also invited to give online by scanning the QR code in your pews or to drop an offering in the offering basket. For folks online, please click the link in the chat to give to First Universalist Church. Thank you for your generosity.
So my family travels a lot, more than I would like sometimes, and the idea of packing and unpacking can be very daunting sometimes. But besides the things that you might pack for a trip, don't forget your toothbrush and an extra pair of underwear and your hat and your sunblock and your shoes that you might need. What should we think about with packing our attitudes when we go on an adventure? I try and especially remind my kids because sometimes they'll be like, this is gonna be horrible. I'm like, stop, shh, don't say that. You don't understand how much power you have. You could make it horrible just by saying that. You've cursed us. Now we've got to break the curse. We've got to find another magic wand and decide, what do you want this trip to be like? Let's decide to take with us a spirit of adventure. And especially our magic looking goggles. Because you never know what you're going to see, but you don't see it if you don't look for it. So sometimes it helps to narrow in and look around, look closely, because there might be some really amazing magic things there that you won't notice if you're staring at your tablet, or if you decide you're going to have a bad day. So besides maybe your magic lookers, which we're going to make upstairs, our wonder lookers, take make sure to pack, don't forget your spirit of wonder. And I love saying, I wonder, when we see something different and unusual, or see people that we've never known before, I wonder why they're wearing those kind of clothes. I wonder why they look different than I do. I wonder about that food and how it might taste. But what you might want to leave behind is the ew, because that won't help us on an adventure. Or a huh. Those aren't very helpful sometimes, you know? Especially if you want to make friends, because that's the best part of a trip is if you make new friends, right? So let's leave behind the it's going to be terribles, the ews and the uhs, and let's take the I wonders and get really curious. Remember that you have a lot of magic and power when you go on an adventure, and in many ways, we are an ambassador going out into the world, so that other people don't think, ew, or Make them think, oh, I wonder about you. Have a nice adventure. Happy adventuring. Oh, I forgot. Once a month, the second Sunday of every month, we collect food for the community cupboard on Nestor Street. If you have not already brought up any non-perishable foods, goods, or monies that you wanted to contribute, you can do those now. You can raise your hand and we can help you to grab those. And thank you so much for this act of putting our faith into life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. I invite you into this reverent time of sharing the joys and sorrows of our gathered community. If you'd like to, you can place a hand over your heart to be able to listen from a heart-centered place. And as we place stones into a bowl, I'll read aloud the joys and sorrows of our gathered community. And everyone online is also welcome to share your joys and sorrows in the chat. Dolores, would you place the stones for us? Thank you so much. We start with a joy from Richard Reed. It is great to be back in person. I've been away far too long. Welcome back, Richard. A concern and a joy from Marty Eggers. Sarah Singo experienced a heart attack this past week. With quick intervention, she's home, feels great, and is doing great. And a sorrow from Barb Brody for the Palestinians and Israelis who are suffering, dying, and being held hostage. And I lift up all those who are impacted by the violence in the Middle East and pray for peace to prevail. As we drop one final stone into the bowl to represent all the joys and sorrows left unspoken in the silent sanctuary of our hearts, we pray that all be held in the heart of love. I offer this prayer by my colleague, Reverend Angela Herrera. It's called A Prayer for the Travelers. This is a prayer for all the travelers, for the ones who start out in beauty, who fall from grace, who step gingerly looking for the way back, and for those who are born into the margins, who travel from one liminal space to another, crossing boundaries in search of center. This is a prayer for the ones whose births are a passing from darkness to darkness, who all their lives are drawn toward the light and keep moving, and for those whose journeys are a winding road that begins and ends in the same place, though only when the journey is completed do they finally know where they are. For all the travelers, young and old, aching and joyful, weary and full of life, the ones who are here and the ones who are not here, the ones who are like you and they're all like you, and the ones who are different, for in some ways we each travel alone. This is a prayer for traveling mercies and sure-footedness, for clear vision, for bread for your body and spirit, for water, for your safe arrival, and for everyone you see along the way. Have you ever had that dream? That dream where you leave the stress of your job, you quit, you take off on an adventure. You had that dream? I did that. After a long period of discernment, lots of tears and talking, and a rewarding but also very stressful time serving as a parish minister, I decided to leave my job. Now, I never thought I would do such a thing. For most of my life, I have sought perfection. And most of my life, I've struggled when I haven't measured up to whatever I thought was the right way, or the right way to be, or the right way to do things. I've consistently appeared to have my life in order, whether I have or not. And seeking perfection has been this silent goal of mine since I was very little. And I decided that I was done with that goal of perfection. At the beginning of that year, I decided I would focus on a word. And the word I chose was integrity. The definition I chose was from Brené Brown, whom I adore. Integrity, she says, is choosing courage over comfort. If integrity is choosing courage over comfort, then courage is doing what is right over what is easy. So when I chose the word integrity in 2021, I had not yet decided to leave my job. I had not yet decided to sell our house. I had not yet decided to leave most of what I knew to do something my heart was calling me toward. But I knew that something didn't feel right. I knew that I wasn't living as my best or favorite self. I knew that focusing so much on external expectations was preventing me from living in my power. And so I chose to lean in to a life of integrity and tune in more deeply to what made me comfortable and uncomfortable. And I began to listen more deeply to what I needed and desired rather than what the world wanted from me. I took an inventory of the ways my life was made more full and beautiful and the ways it was feeling weighed down and blurred. And that inventory included hard conversations with my professional coach, mentors, my spouse, colleagues, friends. It included ending some relationships that were no longer helping me reach my goals of wellness and wholeness. It included reminding myself that I am a person first and a professional second, that there is only one me, that I am the most important thing in my life. I chose to do what was right over what was easy and leave the familiar, journey out into the unknown. I leaned into a space of curiosity, of wonder, to cull out what felt genuine and good and enter into a process of letting go of what no longer felt good. And so in 2021, we sold our 2,000 square foot rural home, complete with 2 acres of land and chickens. The new owners bought the chickens. They're still alive and well. We sold all the furniture in our house. We purchased a pickup truck and a micro mini Winnebago travel trailer. And we crammed everything we owned, which notably was a fraction of what it had been, and our 2 70-pound dogs and ourselves into less than 10% of the living space we were accustomed to. Our time on the road included lots of mud and medical emergencies, literal blood, sweat, and tears, and that was only 2 months in. And we traveled to dozens of states. We slept in campgrounds in the middle of the desert, in Walmart parking lots, a lot of Walmart parking lots, and in friends' front yards. We learned how to drive this camper safely on this truck, on the highway, and on rural roads, and on things we thought were dirt roads that turned out not to be roads at all. We learned exactly how to pack the camper so that things didn't crash around on our drives, because as it turns out, when you're driving, you put everything you own through a little earthquake for many hours, and things move a lot. Things that you didn't, like paper towel rolls, right? You learn that you have to take those down or else it looks like someone toilet papered your camper. At one point, we're driving down the highway and the slide out on the side of our camper started to fall out while we were driving on the highway. My wife was sleeping, and I said, "Honey, I think something's wrong." The dining room is in the other lane. So we we ended up having to move everything out of our camper and into a short-term rental in Biloxi, Mississippi, where we would stay for 2 months while our house, essentially, was being repaired in Indiana. And we found Mississippi to be lovely. It was a lovely place to be, which was a nice, welcome surprise considering they were there for 2 months. In our travels, we got to do amazing things. We watched the sunrise over Badlands National Park. We went sledding down the sand dunes at White Sands National Park. We slept on top of a cliff at the Valley of the Gods. We sampled donuts from local donut shops in like a dozen states. Oddly enough, maple glazed is super popular all over the country. We tried local cuisine, we made conversation with our neighbors, we let our dogs run off leash in a place called the Little Grand Canyon, which was anything but little, but absolutely gorgeous. Just as gorgeous, if not more than the big one. While we were on the road around Christmas time, we had to say goodbye to our dog checkers, and we were fortunate enough to stay with family while we grieved. We got to catch up with friends we hadn't seen in years. We made friends with our camping neighbors along the way, and we had the chance to do a lot of hiking. Now, for both of us as former college athletes, this was a great way to stay active, get some exercise, see this country from a different perspective. On this trip, I was a new hiker, fairly new to hiking, and I learned a lot. I learned which socks are my favorite, which socks not to wear, how to tie my boots, how awkward it is to try to climb boulders with a water bottle in my hand. Turns out I'm much more agile with a hydration pack on my back. I learned that I need to breathe differently on hills than on flat areas. I also learned that the teriyaki vegan jerky made by Primal is the absolute best flavor, teriyaki. I learned about myself, but I also learned about human behavior and tendencies and the things we need to make it through our lives. So here are a few lessons that I learned along the way. Lesson number 1, age is just a number. Now, being a full-time camping family meant that we saw a lot of retired people on our travels, because the reality is that most people have neither the resources, time, or ability to travel in this way until they're older, which means that many of our fellow travelers were the same age as our parents. And what was most surprising about this was that almost all the time, we saw them on the sides of cliffs and mesas, because a good percentage of our fellow hikers were in their 70s. One couple, definitely in their 80s, smoked us on a hike. They weren't even out of breath. It was impressive. Now, my wife Susan and I have been very clear from the beginning that we don't want to wait until we're retired to travel and to experience the world. We want to be able to physically and safely do the things we want to do. And we know that isn't a guarantee as we get older. And given many of our life experiences, we know that not everyone lives long enough to see retirement, never mind travel during it or enjoy it. And still, it was remarkable how many people were doing these things in their 60s and 70s and 80s. And at least at the national parks, I was impressed with the efforts they've made to increase accessibility for people of all ages and abilities. More and more places offered guided hikes. There were elevators and maps and accessible restrooms more frequently than I would have guessed. And more places offered driving loops for folks who want to experience the park from their car or their bus. So yay for more accessibility for everyone in the national parks. Support your national parks. But you can still offer to help people, which brings me to my next lesson. Lesson number 2. People will not ask for help, but you can still offer it. It's their choice whether or not to take the help. Maybe they really can make it down that ladder on the side of a cliff. Maybe they need to prove to themselves that they are strong and capable. Maybe they're embarrassed. Whatever the reason, most people won't ask for help, but some will accept it if you offer. So one day we were hiking in Fisher Towers in Utah, And there was this large tour group of women in their 60s and 70s who were hiking. One woman was having a tough time. She decided to turn back. This was on our way out. On our way back, my wife Susan noticed that this woman was alone. She was having a tough time. So she asked if she wanted our help and for us to walk with her. And she said no. So now we found ourselves at an impasse because we can either stop and let her continue or rush by her walking super fast and leave her be. It was an awkward moment. So what we do when we feel awkward is we talk. So we ended up in a conversation with this woman, and we, the three of us, made our way walking with each other the rest of the way. We talked the entire time. Turned out she was from 3 towns away from where I grew up, because that's what happens when you travel. You see people from home. There was a point where Sue offered her shoulder for stability a few times for this woman to get down a scramble of the hike, and she leaned on Sue to make her way, and then Sue leaned on me, and I leaned on her, and we all made it to the end of the hike safely. Sometimes we don't need help. Sometimes we just need community. And sometimes we need help that we didn't realize was there. Lesson number 3. I have very short legs. That's it. That's the whole lesson. Lesson 3. My wife's legs are much longer than mine. The end. The end of lesson 3. Lesson 4. I am, and we all are, simultaneously powerful and insignificant. I'm pretty good at climbing things, as it turns out. I have very short but very strong legs. My core is pretty strong. I will get to the next step and another and another. I got stronger every day. And I'm so grateful to have a body that allows me to do these challenging things. I'm powerful, and so are you. And there's nothing quite like the feeling of sitting on a summit and looking across a canyon, or standing at the base of a massive mountain, or seeing specks of other people and hearing their voices carrying on the breeze and realizing that you were where they are just a few moments ago. When I watch the sunrise over the land, I feel a deep sense of belonging. And I know that it will happen every single day, whether I am there to watch it or not. I'm so small compared with the vastness of this world and this universe. We all are. So many rhythms and ebbs and flows happen every second, and none of them have anything to do with me or you. They happen naturally and beautifully, whether we're watching or not. Lesson number 5. We can do hard things. I did steal that phrase from Glennon Doyle, whom I adore. It may sound familiar to you. We can do hard things. So I mean this in a physical sense, yes, but also spiritual and mental. Human beings are incredibly resilient, incredibly adaptable. We can make it through some tough stuff and still make it out on the other side. While hiking on the trails, I argued with myself about whether any of it was worth it. The trip, the hike, the boots, the jerky, all of it. Was it worth it? I was annoyed that some hikes felt way harder than I anticipated or wanted. I got frustrated when my asthma flared up, or I slipped, or I wanted to give up and call a cab, which would have taken a very long time. And I rolled my eyes at my wife, who never, ever seems to be out of breath, like ever. My poor wife, she really made it into this sermon, didn't she? She's very strong and she has very good lungs. And in that trip, I learned that I also have strength and I also have ability. And I may not do things the same way that other people do. I may need my inhaler to get through. I might stop to catch my breath. But ultimately, I'm not racing anybody. None of us is racing each other. I can do hard things, and so can you. I feel so fortunate and privileged to have the experiences that I had in that camper. I'm so grateful for my spouse and the immense support she has for me and our marriage. I'm grateful for the ways that my little family has found a sense of home wherever we are together, no matter the state or the circumstances or the parking lot where we might be staying on that given day. I'm grateful for that decision to lean into courage over comfort. I'm grateful to have seen the things I've seen and done the things I've done and gone to the places I've gone. And I'm grateful that after traveling around the country, we decided to come back to the Northeast, the place with the best sunsets and bagels and waterfalls and pizza, the place where our people are. Sometimes we need to travel far and wide to be reminded that home is a beautiful place. Now, not all of us will have the chance to do this, to sell everything we own and drive into the sunset on a whim. Not all of us even want to do it. But all of us can embrace the spirit of that decision, choosing to carry with us what and who brings us alive, choosing the comfort and care of family, choosing all that calls us beyond what we thought possible and toward our favorite selves. It'll look different for each of us. We'll all have our separate journeys, and we're all invited to that which calls us forth. So may we open our hearts and minds to the possibilities. May we reach beyond what we know and dare to take a new perspective. May we choose courage over comfort. And may we find in doing so that there is more love, more care, more hope than we ever imagined beyond the boundaries of what we already know. So may it be. Amen, and blessed be. Our closing hymn this morning is number 1007, There's a River in My Soul. As we extinguish our chalice flame this morning, let us read together the words printed on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts, with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in, until we are together again. As we close our service this morning, I invite you to again place a hand over your heart. And if you're joining us online, I invite you to turn your settings to gallery view and look upon the faces of those here with you. For those of us in this room, please take a moment to look around, see who's with you today. As we go on our separate journeys from this place, may we carry with us the love of these people and this place and this gathering. May we have integrity to choose courage over comfort and open ourselves to the wonders of the world. And let the people of the church say, Amen.
Well, it's a long and dusty road, a hot and heavy load, and the folks I meet ain't always kind. Well, some are bad and some are good, some have done the best they could, some have tried to ease my troubled mind. And I can't help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Can't help but wonder where I'm bound. Now I've been wandering through this land, doing the best I can, trying to find what I was meant to do. And the people that I see look as worried as can be, and it looks like they are wondering too. And I can't help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Can't help but wonder where I'm bound. Now I had a buddy back home, and he started out to roam. I hear he's out by Frisco Bay. Sometimes when I've had a few, his old voice comes ringing through. Yeah, I'm going out to see him some old day. But I can't help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Can't help but wonder where I'm bound. So if you see me passing by, you sit and wonder why, and you wish that you were a rambler too. Nail your shoes to the kitchen floor, lace them up and bar the door, and thank your stars for the roof that's over you. And I can't help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Can't help but